I'll just give you the use cases possibly, but before I get into the use cases of how do you really use tech to upskill, skill, especially the frontline workforce, I think I'll just step back and tell you a bit of personal experience. So I've been a corporate stay for about 27 years. The first half of this was doing door-to-door sales, and I was receiving the learning initiatives. The second half, started off by delivering the learning initiatives. I was never a happy man receiving them. Okay, the reason was that, and this is with all due respect to all the L&D leaders here, most of us when we design learning programs, and Josh spoke a lot about that, you think about deliveries, you think about content, but I, as a user or as a consumer, used to go to these learning initiatives mostly for free food, okay, for a little bit of alcohol in the night, and also, a bit of a party or whatever bonding exercise. Well, that you can do any which ways. Was never a fan of learning. And then came a time when suddenly from being a door-to-door sales guy, I was pushed into sales trainings. And at that point of time, there was a sense of purpose that had come in, and nobody came to teach me anything. I had to learn it on my own. So the point that I'm trying to make is that before you get into the tech, the processes, etc., what is important is what's the vision? I mean, what is the real drive for a person to get into learning? Do people get into learning because they're really driven, or do they get into the learning because, oh well, there's a program going on, there's an FTM, MDP, LDP, EDP, all those fancy buzzwords. We get in and then we have a great time for 3 days. We come back and get back to the norm. So I think what the industry has done over the last 10 years, and some of my colleagues would kind of know this better than I do, is to kind of focus on something known as the skills side of it, moving down from competencies, getting into skills, and that's where they try and create the real reason to learn. So if you look at what Eightfold.ai does or what Gloat does, they do a lot of net scraping, and we use SpotMentor, which does something similar. So they do a lot of net scraping at a UJR level. So all of your HR practitioners, you would know from a people-based organization, we started saying role-based organization. Now we're moving to a skill-based organization where skill is the real currency. Okay, not the job, not the role. So at every UJR level, you can get a success profile created, which is micro skills. So you spoke about micro, right? Now what I'm saying is, if you're going to go ahead and deliver an MDP program, which is managerial skills using Coursera, Udemy, etc., which is like a 5, 10, 15, 20 days or whatever, it's still not micro. Having those chapters, but as a combination of all those chapters, it's still not micro. A lot of times I went into this learning program saying, okay, I know some of this, but this I didn't know, but everything else I do. So why are you making me go through it? Okay, you haven't even assessed me. So that's where I'm coming to, that use technology to come up with the right skill sets that you need to train people on, and you'll be surprised when you do these net scraping exercises, the kind of skills that you would get. By the way, the shelf life of skills, other than the meta skills, is only about 18 months. That's a research, not me. So if skills are kind of, diminishing, declining, whatever, and there's some new emerging skills coming in, are you aware of that, and are you delivering to the people? The second is that why should I get into, and that's the big one. So if you're going to be looking at only developing people for the current role, it's not going to work, because people tend to think that, oh, I'm good at it. But if you're going to add on something like a VIFM of a growth, saying that your promotions to the next role are dependent on your, clearing the skill gap assessments that you have. And not only that, because of skill adjacencies, you can get to see that which are the other roles that you can qualify for, and possibly they're not those traditional parent-child relationships between roles, they are lattice in nature. So maybe an HR guy can get into marketing, or a marketing guy can get into quality, and so on and so forth. Now when that kind of transparency exists, I think you've kind of nailed it on the tech side. And the last point, before you get on to the next question, is that with the skills, you don't just inform or create hyper-personalized learning journeys for people, but there's a lot of strategic angle to it. So if today I was to speak to my CHRO has a full-on view to say that which are the roles in my organization which now need to be made redundant because they have too many declining and maintaining skills. And these are the roles where there's a lot of hot skills emerging. So these are the roles that I need to look at better reward structures for. I need to look at, putting them into my SWP bucket with a better planning. And not only that, even manning becomes very much easier. So there are a lot of impacts on the entire hire to retire, cycle, just to kind of give you some bit of a stimulant there.
Definitely. Vikas, as Nuzar was speaking, it's very important to fail fast, to run a lot of experiments, but to truly understand and whether you have failed or whether you have succeeded, you need the right set of insights, right? And to get it fast, has been challenging, but today it is not with the advent of AI, with the advent of predictive analytics. How do you believe we can leverage it better, predictive analytics and AI, to truly optimize, learn and innovate faster?
Sure. So it's an input-output relationship, right? I mean, if you look at the job contract, when you sign an employment letter or an offer letter, what is really happening is that you're signing a contract that, you know, for the KPIs that the employees would achieve, I would be rewarding you. Like, that's the heart and soul of it. The input side pretty much is the learning that you all provide, and the output side is the productivity. And I think that's where a lot of insights can be provided to make the person more productive. So I'll give you a use case. I mean, it's easier to understand it that way. So imagine if you would relate to the MRs, right? The medical representatives, the frontline workforce literally. Imagine if in the morning I was an MR and I got at 8:30 a.m. in the morning, I got a nudge on my mobile which said that, you know, listen, because you have a daily run rate of $100, that's the KPI that you need to achieve for today, but you're not going to be able to achieve this. It's only 80 that you'll be able to achieve. Now that's the predictive data. Okay, so somewhere there's been a lot of analytics which goes on to say that 80 rupees is your max that you can do. This $20 of a shortfall that you have, here are those other two people who've got some excess leads in the funnel. You can reach out to them, and if you connect with them and if they're able to provide you those leads, you might be able to cover up for that $20 shortfall. That's the prescriptive. Somebody has prescribed an action. This is actually happening. It's no fancy, no science fiction, simple data analytics, not even going to AI and ML. Now imagine, let's take it forward, the same use case. I still wasn't able to do my $100. I didn't do it for like 1 day, 2 days, maybe a month. Now here's another prescription saying, go ahead and check it with your manager. You know, because something needs to be, a skill and a will, maybe it's an issue with your will. You check in with the manager, still doesn't improve. And here comes another prescription saying that, you know, do some learning. Okay, here's the skill side of it. And those learnings are micro because there has been some kind of an assessment. Josh spoke about NLP and, you know, the other stuff. So you can actually read data to understand what really is going wrong. Is it objection handling in sales? Is it product demonstration? Don't put him through the whole gamut of selling skills. When that learning happens and still doesn't improve, here's another nudge that goes to the CHRO or whoever the HRBP is, repurpose. Okay. Now, this is a use case of using analytics, okay, and using a lot of predictive and prescriptive. This doesn't happen overnight, it's a journey. We guys are on it. You know, it's been about a year since we set up our data lake. Now we're building a lot of pipes and connectors. You know, a lot of this information is also about, you know, test, because you need to validate. But that's how your learning really needs to be structured. It cannot be anymore, oh, there are these amazing classroom sessions, we're all going to get together. There has to be a purpose, and the learning initiatives have to be tied down to productivity, and data analytics helps with that.